And 20 minutes into the first game, football reaches in its cold, damp, claspy hand and clangs onto that ball of positivity and squeezes every last sinew of positive and good thinking out of it, leaving you bereft, feeling numb. Welcome to episode 148 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast.
Jepson's there, Billy in, the goal, Chris Billy, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Chris Billy's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted. Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance.
And good evening and welcome to the podcast. New manager Danny Schofield doesn't get the start we'd hoped for. Town delivering a rather bleak first half before an improvement in the second. Dean Hoyle faced the media for the first time and we've signed a special guest as we go from offensive to the offensive. With myself, Matt Shaw, we've got Kosi Bear, we've got Jonny Gillespie and the son of Jarrell, a podcast superman when it comes to writing, producing and voice acting. It's Adam Jarrell. How are we doing, guys?
What a fantastic intro.
I just need to check to make sure people can hear us online because that could all be for nothing. So if you're listening online, let us know if you can hear us.
It's working, Matt. I can hear you. I'm muted you though, but yeah.
Good. Well, that's probably what everyone else has done. That's why we've got no comments. So there we go. So welcome back to Andy Takes That Chance. It's been an eventful week, hasn't it? All the build-up of the football, and here it comes, and within 15 minutes, you wish you back on your pre-season holidays, don't you? But Huddersfield Town 0, Burnley 1. Before we get fired in, I think it's I think it's important to bear in mind we are aware of what happened last year. Huddersfield lost 5-1 at home to Fulham, and we went on and finished third. So what we say, if anyone wants to tear into the team or anyone wants to praise the team, either way, we are aware that things can turn very quickly, and it is one game out of 46. So before we move on, I'm going to throw this hand grenade to you, Kosi. So the first half, I almost went as Neil Warnock then, wasn't I? The first half, the second, But the first half, Kosi. Let us know your thoughts.
Wow, as opening halves go to a campaign, and it was quite interesting, Ronnie, because I think if everyone else were like us, I had about 18 people text me and goes, "Oh, shush, this is the team for tonight." And I don't know if anyone else got this team and that as well, but it was exactly the team that started. And I thought, oh dear, it's obviously there were none of the new signings playing, and there were people that were nowhere near the team that finished the end of the season that Carlos had obviously deemed kind of surplus to starting games. So I were very unenthused with that team that I saw, and it was confirmed at 7:00 on. So I kind of plodded down from the Carousel pub on across Church Street. Pretty much, do we have to go? And I'm afraid the first half panned out as it's pretty much like I thought. It just seemed to me a team to defend, to just hit them on the break, and like you can say, we did that with quite a lot of Cals, but I didn't see any way we could hurt Burnley. This was before we kicked the ball. I just thought for a new coach, and again, this could be totally brutal, and hopefully it makes me look a bit daft later. I just thought this is Dan Schofield's chance to really send out a message here, to really send out a statement, and but obviously he's going to know if players are fit and new players, and he's seen enough of them as well. But to be honest, the first half panned out like I thought that team would. I thought, the one thing you did think they'll kick someone about, put a blow in. The crowd was really good. I was surprised. I thought with summer holidays and stuff, and obviously live on Sky, God, I know some of the people on holiday, I'm watching it in this bar and that bar. I thought there'd be a lot more empty seats in the bar. So there were plenty in there. the atmosphere was good, kind of starting, and wow, the whistle went and it was horrendous. For 5 minutes where Burnley at the start kind of almost like to me were just getting into gear and stuff, but after that, it's hard to remember, although people will probably throw Bournemouth. You remember that Bournemouth one where Crooks obviously heading up at Middlesbrough. Yeah, that has. I know you can say Fulham, but obviously we would have kind of another game in there, won't we? I think we played at Derby, didn't we, the week before, whatever. But it looked like no one knew each other. It looked like what I kind of feeling, thinking, why the hell are we? I'm going on a tangent here, Anna, but it's like we're playing all these games on the same day. There's one team playing, one team playing there. My thoughts were, how the hell are they going to be coherent? I kept hearing, well, they've gone that way because they want to get, they've got to get energy into the legs, minutes into the legs. Well, the team looked unfit. It looked as though it had never seen each other before. I've just got to be honest with you. I can't sit here and just say anything different, really. That first half was as bad as it's ever been. And there was a video that we've got over in our internal communications group and Pozza were on it as well. The infamous Karoma, it was an incredible moment. It reminded me of, I forgot his name, the winger that we had. We were only on loan. He played at Burnley and he ran the ball out down the touchline. And everyone's looking at, oh God, I'll have to Google.
Could be about 30 of those, Kosi, to be fair.
Yeah. I think we're from Middlesbrough, Matt. Come on, give me a name before that kind of thing.
Oh, Mustafa Carry On.
Yeah, Mustafa Carry On.
Yeah.
One of those moments where he just run out down, touch that turf. It's like he just run the ball out here. Incredible. And that Karoma bit, and he panned it. I don't know if you've seen it back, but Pozza came on. There were other people just look stunned and they picked up on it, didn't they? Commentators thinking, wow, this was a place that were bouncing. So, yeah, hopefully I've got all the kind of negative. But that first half was as bad as it's been, and it hardly needed much to be better second half. But yeah, I think I'll end there for the time being. My name's Richard.
Jonny, we'll throw it back over to you now. So, Town, for my money, looked disorganised. I think there's a lot of truth in what Kosi says about how they didn't seem to know each other, and it felt a bit like a team that had trained together, and that and also played separately. Which I think there's probably some good things to that, and maybe some negative things to that. But they just seemed a little bit. Everything. There were a couple of little differences. The system, the shape was slightly different, wasn't it? Dwayne Holmes pushed up to make a sort of a 4-4-1-1, which really exposed John Russell and Jonathan Hogg, and you can maybe come on to that because essentially Burnley pushed the fullbacks up, didn't they, and then narrowed off in the middle, which really caused the overload in sort of central areas, which whereby Hoggy and Russell were outmanned and outnumbered. And after 10 minutes, it seemed obvious that we needed to drop Dwayne back to bulk out the numbers in midfield, but it never came. So there's a couple of things here that I'll lead you on to. One of them for me was that it felt very Jan Zever Championship, didn't it? One of those type of games whereby it's starting from a low base. The second half we'll come on to shortly, and the second half was much better. So, we're not going to completely double foot them from the start. But people are slagging off Hoggy and Russell online, and they're writing them off as well, which to me seems a little bit churlish and early. But talk us through tactically how Town lined up, that system, and was it a case of Burnley just being tactically better than us, or were we dazzled by Vincent Kompany's bright white trainers on the touchline? Because they were very
bright. I sit right behind him, and they were very bright. They were definitely the first wear. I think he might have one for each pair. But I think the most worrying thing is, like Kosi said, it looks like, and you just said there, it looks like a lot of players that didn't know each other. Like if we'd made like Burnley, do you know what I mean? I think they needed a who's who book for all their new signings. If that was the case, then you can forgive them, but they do know each other. And that almost makes, do you know what I mean, that kind of compounds it a little bit more, makes it even worse. Yeah, tactically, it is slightly different. Obviously, Schofield's playing a different way, and that was quite evident, quite different to Carlos. But like you said, quite clear it didn't work. Dwayne Holmes, I think it's important to say, players played poorly. I mean, Holmes didn't play particularly very well. Russell didn't play particularly well. Same with Hogg. Whether it's down to them individually saying it's an individual problem, as in they're not good enough, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that they've been asked to do a job, but they've been asked to play a role. Is that role right for their strengths? Probably not. And do you know what I mean, I don't want to point the finger at players too early. Do you know what I mean, Holmes had a good season last season. Russell had a good season when he came through, and do you know what I mean, Hogg did played a completely different role to what he played against
10 good
Burnley.
seasons, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't just slate them and write them off after one game. But the issue is for me, that needs to be recognised quite quickly. Russell and Hogg, yeah, they might have played together every now and again last season, but they had O'Brien next to them, who can do 10 other players on the pitch is running. Now that makes a massive difference. Pulling O'Brien out of that and leaving them as a double pivot, and Holmes playing in a position that I'm not saying he can't play number 10. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he likes playing number 10, but he's certainly not played there before for Town, because we've not operated as number 10 before really. So the gap was massive, and whether Burnley wanted to play the way they played or looked to kind of exploit that as the game started, that's something I feel should be recognised really quickly. Danny Sculford actually says in his post match he did recognise that, changed it at half time, but we were lucky the game wasn't gone. In all honesty, yeah, it was so obvious, that gap. The ball came in, you had Brownhill receiving the ball, turning, and having space to actually advance up the pitch and play a pass. And like you say, you're screaming at Russell and screaming at Hogg to get close to them, but it's not what their strengths are. So whether you tweak it, whether the players on the pitch were there to tweak that in first half, you could bring Holmes back, I think is an obvious one. But that's more of the worry for me. It's not necessarily a dig at the players on the pitch and what they were doing. It's what they've been asked to do. And I made a big point as people I sit next to saying, look, if it comes out at half time, I don't mind being the same players coming out the second half. But if we come out and play the exact same system and the exact same faults, I'll start to worry. And we did. I know we changed it quite quickly, and we did. But for me, it's just being able to recognise the players, the strengths, what the weaknesses are. And do you know what I mean? Burnley were very good. There's a couple of new players there, and I think I've very good friends of Burnley fan, and they were surprised. They were surprised at how good they were. So maybe we might be surprised about how good they were. But I think we've got players in that squad and the players on the pitch that could have done better, given different jobs and given different roles. I think for me that's something that we're going to have to wait and see. It's one game. I mean, it wasn't great. It was absolutely awful. I'm also very conscious it's one game, and let's give people opportunity to fix that and right those wrongs and see what happened. It's not the fact Russell and Hogg and Holmes aren't good enough. We know they can be better than that. It's how they're used, and if we're going to use as a double pivot Hogg and Russell, for the rest of the season, we're going to face that and probably worse than that, and see worse than that out of it, because that's not their game. We know that's not their game. So, and I think Schofield being at the club last year, might you have known that? Yeah, might there be different options you could have gone with possibly. And for me, it's like I understand why he might not have started the new players, but Burnley started, I think, 7 new players. They put the lad Costello didn't even got given a squad. It wasn't even given a squad number 2 days before the game. He starts. So why can't we chuck new players on? And again, like Kosi alluded to earlier, we don't know behind the scenes, like fitness levels, what they can and can't do. But I think the game was gone in the first half. However we came out playing the second half, it was that bad that it was always going to leave a bit of a sour taste in the mouth. And I don't know, it's not what I'd have done, but then. I mean, we're not the experts, but I think there were some glaring errors, and I think it's now just hopefully that gets addressed, because it's not good enough. To put it bluntly, it's not good enough.
Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You've long-time target for me to get on the podcast, so it's good to have you on.
You're really scraping the barrel now, mate.
You've unfortunately come on at a time where the lads have had a bit of a rant. Well, not a semi-rant, isn't it? It's a well composed worry, I think, is some of that. What we are taking, your take on the game. You've seen the game. You can lead us, on from it a little bit as well. But yeah, Jonny, I'm aware Jonny and Kosi talked a lot there about the game and covered quite a lot. But what was your take on the half itself and the starting lineup? Obviously, you sit there, don't you, and you worry that you think, was Carlos the tactical person? Maybe when you see Danny, don't you, and Chicho there, and you think, because Carlos would change. He was changing systems every 5 minutes, and you do wonder, don't you, if you've lost that tactical edge, which it'll play out obviously over the season, and obviously the legs of Lewis O'Brien, etc. And you wonder how that covers. But just let us know your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, well, I was well up for it. I was so up for it. I was just like, right, let's just forget about Forest. Let's forget about the final. But I almost felt like I I wasn't ready for football to come back yet. And I thought, oh, well, the players will be, but they weren't. And it was pretty obvious that they weren't. I think with regards to Kosi and Johnny's comments, I agree. I completely agree with everything you said, to be honest. But I think with regards to like, I don't want to, I don't want to be a happy clapping sort of person, but Burnley's quality showed, and I think it was a case of we were really bad, but I think Burnley were very good. I think the signings they brought in, they're all new and they haven't had time to gel. Probably haven't had as long a time as some of the town players have. But I think the quality of who they've brought in outshone us on nearly every part of the pitch, to be honest. And I just thought it was a combination of two extremes, especially that first half. The second half was still not great, but there were glimpses, weren't there, when Tino came on was fantastic. Up until half time, the highlight for me was realizing that I had a Mars duo in my bag that I'd forgotten about, and then I had it in time to see the Phantom of the Opera do dizzy penalties, and I was like, well, it's going to be all right this second half, and then Redoni came on. He showed a lot of energy. I was impressed with Ollie Turton, actually. I haven't heard his name chatted about much, really, or tweeted about, because he's sort of a bit of a no-nonsense player. But I thought Ruffles had a bit of a nervous audition. I think we were saying before we went live. That's big shoes to fill. But hopefully Ruffles will be able to sort of step up. Well, hopefully we can all step up, because it was really poor. But when Tino came on and when Redoni came on, I had little glimpses of come on. And like Kosi was saying about the fans in the ground, when it really woke us up, because we were all asleep. I mean, Burnley were singing, "Is this a library? Is this a library?" Which is always horrible when away fans sing that to you. You think, oh, Jesus, they're right. They're right, though. We were all so stunned at how crap that first half was, that when Tino started, just sprinting at everyone, I was thinking, come on, we could get something here. But then it was only about a 5 or 7 minute moment, and then that was it. We were back to it and just left a bit dejected, really. But also, it's the first game of the season. I remember the first game against Fulham where we got trounced. Obviously, we had Ryan Schofield in goal and not Lee Nichols, so there was mistakes there. But yeah, I think Burnley were very good and we were very bad. That's pretty bland analysis from me, but I think that's basically what it was.
Pretty much what it is. So somebody's just said online that I'm slightly quiet, so I've just adjusted my sound level. So Rob, if you let me know if that's any better, and that will be good. I've just added another microphone.
With Josh Cullen, that one of the best individual performances I've seen at the stadium for some time. He's come a long way since he played for the Claret and I don't even say the name back many years, but yeah, he was brilliant, mate. What a player! He looks, what a side is.
He was on my hit list if we were going to get promoted. Him, he's
yeah. Then they brought on Scott Twine as well, and that's someone who I really wanted to have a look at as well. And he had bags of energy when he came on. So I was thinking, oh God, I'm just amazed actually. It was only 1-0.
It's a good point, Adam. I think that's the thing that's in the back of my mind, because we were awful, and I thought they didn't really break sweat, but we played a very, very good team. I think this is a perfect game to have. It's the Birmingham, because it's a good gauge, because we absolutely. I went to get St Andrews last year and we beat them easy. We kind of did to Birmingham last season what Burnley did to us, like with a minimum of fuss, and you knew we were always going to win, like you knew what they were always winning Friday. So, I mean, it's not obviously the preview pod, but it's a fascinating measure, I think, and probably a good game to have to come back on, really. So, but yeah, obviously we'll talk about this one a bit more. I think
Josh Brownhill as well. They have got a good side, haven't they? I think that's fair enough. And they've pretty much signed every player. I did a number of articles in the summer, and if we lost, say, Lewis O'Brien and Harry Toffolo, etc., I put like suggested replacements, and they've pretty much signed everyone that I would have put as a suggested. So I was sat there extra salty that Burnley had signed all the players I liked, especially the left back Ian Matson, who was on my hit list, and he's a great player. But I think for Jonny and Kosi, I don't think I've listened to the podcast you do, Adam, The Offensive, which they should do, and I've put Jonny right on that one. I think Johnny's going to have it on he's going to load it up, aren't you? So this may go a bit flat for them, but at half time, you need a strong captain, don't you? A leader amongst men. And the podcast you do, the team, Ashwood City, has a very northern and very interesting captain called Kieran Broom, doesn't it? I'm just wondering, what would Kieran Broom have said at half-time to all the lads in there?
Oh, my word. Put me on the spot. Well, Kieran talks like this. He's sort of no nonsense. I sort of imagine him as like a bit of a Johnny Ogg character, but a bit more sort of with a bit of Wayne Rooney thrown in there as well. Not for his voice. This is a impression of a heightened impression of my older brother. But I reckon he'd just be like, Sorba, like, have you got your controller settings right? Because you're pressing the wrong buttons to pass. It's like you got like Pro Evo settings when we're playing FIFA because it's absolutely crap. And it was just. I think I don't know what Kieran would have done because he's an older soul. So I feel like if he probably would have had the same problems that Hogg and Russell had. And not that Russell's old, but I've seen Milk turn quicker than he did on Friday. But I feel like Kieran would probably be sulking and probably be like, "Oh, I wish I'd have go to Nottingham Forest because they've got a well good Hooters and it would have been proper good to play for them." So yeah, I reckon he would have just been sulking, to be honest.
Good. We've got some one or two little bits lined up for later, haven't we, with that? So, so let's talk about better things. Second half. Kosi, let's lead us into the second half. Let's talk about better things, but off you go, mate.
Just kind of reflecting still on the first, it's like, I thought it really would a good game for us because I just thought obviously with company and the signings that they've got and our kind of lower expectations. So I just thought that if we could somehow burgle a draw or really show something, some energy, some pride, some everything, and I just don't think we get any. That's the worst thing for me. I could have easily taken a 1-2, 1-3 defeat, but if you're walking out of there thinking it's a brave new world, and I know we're making judgments so quick. I think that's what the thing that hurts me as well. It's even Johnny. I couldn't really kick anyone up and down, which he said it all. But yeah, the second half, Matt. I mean, let's be honest. I was begging for the half time whistle. Please God, because by every passing minute, it looked like they were going to get a second and finish it, and then obviously the talk in the stands is, we're not going to be any worse, are we? And at least we're going to show something. But it were the minimum of improvements, wasn't it? I mean, again, it was an interesting one because at half time, I don't know what you'd have done, guys, but I just thought it would have been a huge call for a rookie manager. And to be fair, he could have subbed 10 off players off, couldn't he, in the first half? But it'd have been a huge call for a rookie manager in his first game to make the changes. And me and Pos chatted at half time and says he'll give him 10 minutes. And if he didn't improvement, he'll change it. But part of me is thinking, send a message out here, Danny. But maybe I'm a bit naive because then maybe he's going to lose other players. But what did Karoma give us for another 10 minutes there? Absolutely jacked. So it's like,
nothing.
But I think I'm in a bit naive and expecting it. Maybe a more experienced coach would have done that first game, like sod that. And maybe he could have done a lot more damage. But we wasted 10 minutes there, and then Tino come on, and to be honest, within 5 minutes, he'd done more than pretty much anyone else in that as well. And an exciting run. And was it last one over the bar? Did Ward? I mean, God, Ward. I don't think they ever touched the ball. They had about 24% possession, didn't we, in the first half? I said to someone who I was stood there, says, did we get promoted? And are we in the Premier League? And is this just like what it used to be?
Yeah, it did feel like that.
Maybe we are playing a Premier League team elect and stuff, Adam. I don't know, but it's... Yeah, I mean, Tino with a positive without a shadow of a doubt in that as well. A lot of people raved about Radoni. I didn't see much, to be honest, from him. But anyone who was coming on, even if we'd have come on, to be honest, guys, the crowd would have warmed to us because...
I don't know, mate. Have you seen us play?
These other guys give a shit.
Christ, yeah.
That guy who came on for Everton overnight, that bless him, that guy who's been delivering stuff to the Ukraine and stuff. He could have done a job, but honestly, it would hardly. And really, they should have won by more. Obviously, it's free kick at the bar and stuff. It was so disappointing. I walked out of there pretty down, to be honest, Friday.
Do you want to know something else that'll depress you as well, Cos? And I'll come on to you, Johnny. We've still not had a shot on target since Jordan Rhodes put it in against Luton. So, so there you go.
The best thing in
heaven. We never get many of them anyway, do we? To be honest. But I had two mates that were at the game, and it's not a massive sample size, is it? And I don't know how much I value their opinion massively, but they both said separately, they don't know each other, that they thought we defended really well. They said, you didn't do anything, like you didn't control the game, but at least you defended quite well. And I didn't necessarily think we did. I think, but they had a couple of chances where they probably should have scored. Nichols made some good saves, and then I think we're just a bit lucky with a free kick. But I guess it's just a bit of view from the side whether that was kind of more people think that or not. But
I
guess it's a little bit kind of, I guess a little bit like we kind of, to a certain extent, if we'd their goal, I mean, they deserve to score more than one. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
But their goal was a little bit kind of. Don't take this, the Burnley fans watch. Don't take it the wrong way. It's not salty, but it's a little bit fortunate how it kind of fell, like half fell to actually score. But it's not too different. Looking at real positives here, it's not too different sometimes what we've done last year, where we kind of just defended. Weren't necessarily the best team. That classic, how were they third? I mean, how were they in the playoffs? And we've had one chance kind of fall and get a 1-1 or get a 1-0. It's not too dissimilar to what we've done quite a few games last season. With a bit of a positive hat on it.
Didn't you think they had Mark in the tank though?
I thought Burnley stepped off. I thought they stepped off.
You knew that, and people.
Yeah, I don't know, because I thought Burnley stepped off its second half. I thought 10-15 minutes. I thought Tino looked really threatening. Rudoni was nice. I thought he made a lot of good runs, a couple of good balls across, which didn't happen. But I thought he looked quite. I turned into trouble a couple of times, but I thought he looked quite promising. But I really like David Kasumu. Because as soon as he came on in that defensive midfield, he made 2 challenges immediately, which Hogg and Russell couldn't make, in the entire game. And he just thought, he's got something about him. He's quick, he's angry, he's feisty. I'm going to like this guy. There's something there, I think. And then, but it was kind of a typical David Kasumu performance, wasn't it? He came on, he got booked, he got injured, and went off. And
it was the free kick, wasn't it? That got injured with that tackle for the free kick.
I thought tackle that as well.
Yeah,
it was. It was a great tackle.
Yeah, it was.
Maybe
it
a
wasn't
bit
foul.
aggressive, but
It wasn't a foul.
But yeah, just as we've
Matt,
got high out.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Yeah. I agree, Matt. I think that Kasumu, I was thinking he were the man just to inject a bit of life in there. But like I said, anyone could have won. But again,
it'd be interesting if we started Rudoni, Tino, and Kasumu. Like again, I understand maybe why we didn't. It's hindsight, but like Burnley start all the new players pretty much apart from Scott Twine. It's like, what would have been? We don't know, do we? Do you know what I mean? They might well come off with hamstring injuries, but
I thought they added something. I thought they definitely added something. I feel sorry for Josh Karoma. Everyone knows I like Josh Karoma. I've got this conch that I used to blow Adam a couple of years ago. Every time Karoma had a game, this was the conch to blow it for the Josh Karoma fan club to assemble like it's an Anchorman rip-off. And not blown that for a long time. And
I don't think you ever will again.
I don't know. It cost me like £5 on Amazon as well. It's not money well spent at the minute. But he's unfortunately not showing well. And Karoma, I thought Rudoni did add something. I thought Tino definitely 10-15 minutes. You can see Tino's going to do it in flashes. He's worth playing for a good 60-70 minutes. And in that 60-70 minutes, I think what you're going to get is you're going to get 5 minutes here and there where he's going to come to absolute life and he's going to run and he's going to absolutely plough through people. And I was saying to you guys before we went on air, he turns me into Mickey from Rocky, where you think he's, every time he gets like, he's a wrecking machine and he's going to proper crush people. And there's a good bit in front of me as well, whereby I think he'd lost a throw in and he turned around really angrily and went shoulder someone out of the way. And I thought, you know what, Tino fancies this year. He's well up for this. And I really like what I see with Tino, Kasumu. And I like Rudoni, but he's stepping up a level, isn't he? So there's, he's got a little bedding into, but I liked, technically, I quite liked what I saw there. And it gave me enough hope that second half. And what also gave me hope as well, Johnny, was Adam, whoever wants to take this, reminded Green. I thought he took a little while to get going in the first half, but Tom Lees for me was man of the match. I love Tom Lees. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I'm a big Tom Lees fan. And I thought he talked reminding him through the game. Well, I thought he had a really good spell in Green. There are a couple of moments where Ashley Barnes did get the better of him, bullied in the elbow. I thought Barnes should have bumped a couple of times for the elbows through, but it's championship football, and it happens. But I thought Barnes was good. I thought he played well. He was lively. His movement superb. He almost signed Chelsea, didn't he, a couple of years ago, so he's not a bad player. But I thought reminding Green and Tom Lees handled him relatively well. There's a bit of a penalty shot was in the first half, which I've not seen on a replay, but it looked a little bit sketchy from where I was. But I thought. Tell me. Was it a penalty? I haven't seen it back yet, but I'll have to have a look. Remind him of Green, though. Tell me about Mamani. We were saying in the preview show, weren't we, that for the breakthrough player this year, it's all about opportunity, isn't it? When someone's injured, you have to step in. We like Spencer, we like Kamara, we like Pat Jones, we like all these players. But remind him he's got his chance now. Does he keep it? Does he keep it? Do you reckon?
I think based on that, based on Burnley, yeah, but it's your heart breaks for Matty Pearson, doesn't it? Because I think didn't they say he's going to be out for between 5 and 6 months?
There's different
rumours.
Yeah, I think December was that's 5 months, isn't it? So maybe it's the second half of the season. Maybe he's got a good World Cup warm up, hasn't he?
And the defence, obviously, I feel like Toffolo was a bit of a leader on and off the pitch as well. So they're probably, I know even as a left back, he still sort of led the defence there. So it'd be great. I mean, obviously we all want Romani Abid-Screen to step up. I thought Tom Lees had a good game as well. I'll ring the bell for the Ollie Turton fan club as well. I thought he went into every header, every challenge. I thought he was cracking. I just think you need to all be singing from the same hymn sheet, and Josh Ruffles just looked a bit lost. So I think I didn't probably notice that much about Romani Abid-Screen and Tom Lees, to be honest. I was probably too nervous about the left back situation and the midfield situation, and I haven't watched the game back since I watched it Friday night. And
no one wants that. No one wants that.
No, God, why would you do that? But but you know, as Johnny said, he had 2 separate people saying that we defended well. So maybe we did. I was just a bit too scared to notice anything good that wasn't glaringly obvious, such as Tino sprinting at people. So yeah, sorry, it's not a very well informed answer that, but
it's all right.
But, no, but yeah, I think he had a good game. Do you know, I think I've seen him get a little bit of stick, but I don't know. Ashley Barnes is a very difficult player to play against. I mean, he's a very smart player. He's clever. He uses his body well. That's not to say he's also not got ability and talent as well. And he had people running around him, which made his life even easier. So, to me, he'll come up against worse strikers, and he'll probably look better for doing so. But I thought he had a good game. Like I say, I think Leeds, you could see Leeds kind of helping him through. But I'm all for giving him a chance. You know, it's not we're not a charity club giving people chances, but I think he's earned the right to have a go. I didn't think he wasn't the reason why Huddersfield didn't win that game. Fully paid up member of the Ollie Turton fan club, I must say. He's my prediction for player of the season. Absolutely love him. Yeah, and again, I think both fullbacks kind of come in for a bit of stick. Turton, to go with Turton first, I don't think, to me, it's set the world alight. I don't think you could say he had a bad game. I think there was massive gaps between Turton, Ruffles, Koroma and Thomas, which there wasn't last year. A lot of time the ball came in, they were under pressure quickly because Burnley pressed really, really fast. They didn't really have an outlet. I think the ball got into Hogg or Russell. It went, if the pass was available, which often it wasn't because the pass was closed down. The ball went in, we lost it, or the pass up to Russell's or pass up to Koroma or Thomas was, like 20, 30 yards, which he wasn't last year. So pointing the finger at the fullback, fair enough, but I also think the system didn't necessarily help them when they had the ball in possession. Out of possession, I thought Turton was fine. I think Ruffles wasn't as good as he probably wants to be if he was to say it to himself. But again, will he grow into it? Hopefully. There's plenty of people who saw him at Oxford and say he was a good player, and defensively as well, attacking. So I guess we'll just have to see on that one. But I do think out of the four, he was the one who's probably the weakest, I'd say. But certainly in possession, I wouldn't necessarily point the finger directly just at the fullbacks. I think the system again, not to repeat myself, it didn't necessarily help them out. Whereas last season, the fullbacks had a lot more options to push up the field and a lot of people nearer to them to actually play football as well. So a little bit hung out to dry, I think the fullbacks were.
In Ollie Turton's defence as well, Johnny, the tactical switch was to make Sorba more central. So Sorba came in, didn't he, to sort of help out the two in the middle. So that then left Ian Maatsen completely free on the flank, and he out of possession. I thought Turton really struggled against him, but he will do because Ian Maatsen's a Chelsea player, and he's also got two men out there wide, and he's almost getting doubled up on in attack, and the overload's coming that way. So I thought Burnley were very clever in how they adapted and shifted as well, and good signs for them, good signs for Vincent Kompany as well, and Burnley. So they were fully enjoying themselves in the away end that weekend, and all the best. I think we could all pretty much agree it was a fair result, really, that Burnley won the game. Maybe scoreline maybe flattered us slightly, but
a fair result would have been 3-0 Burnley after half time.
But a fair fair victor, I think we'll go with in the end. So fair play, Burnley. And at this point as well, I will roll in my Magic Rock sponsorship.
I just thought we looked.
As well, or I won't because Cossy's
I thought we looked unfit. I thought we looked unfit.
A few of them, I agree.
First half,
like
I had a kind of.
I'm not sure if it's unfit.
Really
I'm not sure if it's unfit because I don't know if sometimes I think when players are a little bit lost, they look unfit and lethargic, and I sometimes think that maybe it's not such a fitness thing, but more of a not knowing what they were doing, and therefore they look a bit leggy because the thought process isn't there. And that's what
Ashley
I
Barnes
thought.
Looked like a teenager, mate. How many times Ashley Barnes got behind us? It's embarrassing, mate. He's so clever in it because he's one of those you'd hate to mark because he's gone and he's like there. Honestly, him and Jack Cork just going to underpin their promotion, man, and obviously they've signed well as well. And a bit jealous of their ride. I was chatting to some of their fans in the train station. They're really excited to, after years of just like trying to stay up. Pretty much what we enjoyed it for 1-2 years.
I enjoyed the anti-football chants as well because they were passing the ball around, weren't they? And they were singing anti-football quite gleefully because they were playing some good stuff, weren't they? And they enjoyed it. And do you know what? They're a decent set of fans. They're pretty much a Lancastrian Huddersfield, aren't they?
Very much so.
About Jack Walker, which
I didn't hear that.
Apart from that disgusting chant about Jack Walker, which absolutely that's kind of shit that should be.
They've got a few, I think, haven't they?
It's shameful, mate. They were loud as all. If you couldn't
we
hear
absolutely
that,
joined the Burnley march, and there was a few Jack Walker ones which I thought were a little bit sour.
Horrible, man.
I did hear that obviously Blackburn been referred to as fatherless figures at times, which is pretty much old school football, isn't it? But I didn't hear the Jack Walker one.
Yeah, good job you went on a trip from Leeds. We singing about Jack Walker and
that's not good.
Kids and.
Right, shall I roll in the sponsor this time, Cosy? So this
anyway,
probably not the opportune time to link the two, but this podcast obviously sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing again this season. So I want to thank Magic Rock and everyone down there, Andrew and Richard for getting behind the podcast and helping us out. It means a lot to us that you guys help us out. So if you are down looking for somewhere on match day to have a drink or two, head down to Magic Rock because, to be blunt, it's decent. So get yourselves down there. And if you want to buy anything online, use our code of AHTTC10. We don't get anything from it, but you do. It's 10% off any online orders. So knock yourselves out and enjoy Magic Rock. Kasumu's injury, Cosy. Sometimes timing in football is everything. And since Scott High out on the day Kasumu got injured, that just seems quite unfortunate, doesn't it, for us? Scott High was on the bench for Rotherham. I think he's got a job on there to get in the side because Rotherham have actually got a really strong midfield. They've got some good players there. Good luck to Scott High. Hopefully he does well, doesn't he, and comes back. This was a point on your agenda more than mine, Cos. But good luck to Scott High. I like him. I think there's something there. I think there's something there with Scott High. Always have done. So I hope he goes out and does well.
Yeah. No, it's a huge concern that Kasumu fails after 16 minutes with a guy who could make Rolando Aaron's injury pattern look toe to toe and that as well. That's a huge
this might
issue.
Become the Rolando Aaron's injury conch rather than Josh Carroll.
Yeah. I think the worry for me as well, Danny Schofield were really downbeat after the game about the injury. He said it's serious injury for Kasumu. So, hugely worrying because then, hugely worrying is that because, like you said, Matt, he added life and soul, and you know that he'd be a crowd favourite because he's another sort of kind of guy. But that honestly, I got back into the car, and then you're thinking, let's have some good news. You turn it up. Pearson pretty much nearly season almost done, and Kasumu sounded serious one, and pretty grim, mate. But so you know what, Scott, I might be back quicker than you think.
There's usually a break clause, but that break clause probably isn't until January, you would imagine.
Yeah.
The issue is it's like this.
Yeah. I must admit,
in a minute, Johnny.
No, you're right. You're right.
No, Scott, I didn't see the fuss about him, to be honest. I don't know what his qualities are, to be honest. When he played, like you see, he can tackle, he can do this, he can that. I was struggling to see it, Matt. So, there's probably better people to talk about.
Yeah, good pass remover. I have a good view from
Let's see what
he's good movement. He's good movement, but he's got a lot to do. Obviously, he's obviously not the finished article yet, but there's something there, and we'll see how he does. Go on, Johnny.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Cosby. I back a low move. I think there's bits of Scott High's game that look good. I mean, he played a lot in the first half of the season. There's other parts I think need a bit of work. I don't think he's Huddersfield Town first team standard necessarily yet week in, week out. So, I mean, like you say, you're quite right. We've actually got quite a good midfield. So how much he'll play, who knows? We could go and get a League One team or a lower Championship team and play. I mean, 35 games in a season, you'll probably come back better for it, and then we can have a look. So I'd probably I would back the move for Scott High. The issue for me is I just think that midfield, just thinking about it there, if Kasumi, do you know what I mean, is injured, and like I say, you sign a player, you don't expect him to get injured, that's fair enough. That's not a stick to beat the club with. But if we're going to play a midfield too and looking to play a 10, if you recognise Holmes as more of a 10 than really the standard kind of 8 as such, there's no depth there whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? Hogg, bless him, he's the absolute machine, but at some point he's going to have to slow down a little bit. Russell, this is his first full kind of professional season, so he might have a few little knocks that come from that being so young as well, and a bit of an experience. That it is a worry if Kasuma is out for a period of time, and he's only a kid as well. There's not who else is kind of stepping in there.
Yeah,
it's kind of a bit of a gap, isn't it? Really, and there isn't anyone else to come in.
We were talking about opportunity, weren't we? And one player who's been the 19th man, if you like, towards the end of last season, and someone who really impresses me every time I see him is Etienne Kamara. So, you know, it could be a case of step forward, Etienne Kamara, and see what you've got, or Dwayne Holmes drops deeper. So, but yeah, there's definitely opportunities for some of them, even down to Ben Midgley. Maybe, who knows what they've got. But the window is still open, so whether Town do anything with that news, who knows? We'll see. But shall I read out some comments? I'll read out some live comments now because the guys have been very, very patient, and most of them have been slagging off my microphone, so I'll ignore those that have come through. So Richard Huckey says, "Evening, lads. Very poor first half. Midfield was poor and looked unfit. Better second half. Optimistic about the new signings, but we'll see." Robert Wood says, "Football is a game of swings and roundabouts. Dead right, I wanted to get off after 45 minutes." Mark Harrison says, "We look like we had a short pre-season, which in truth we have. Very rusty." I'd agree with that. And he says, "Hogg and Russell need a runner with them. I believe Forest have a decent one. Don't, Mark. It's too soon for stuff like that.
Far too soon.
Stop it. Richard Crowther says, "I don't agree with Johnny. Suck it, Johnny. It was same players, but they weren't doing the same thing in the second half. They sat deeper in the middle of midfield." Adam Kershaw says, "Holmes didn't have enough movement and didn't want the ball enough, but sure if Hogg actually tried to pass the ball. Not sure if Hogg tried to pass the ball last game. I need glasses. I think I need to get some stronger glasses here. Most touches were headers back to Burnley or just nervous touches." Rob Wood says, "Players shouldn't need a half time to work things out." And then there's a lot of slagging off on my microphone, which is fine. We've fixed that now. Richard Hookey says, "Burnley Premier League experienced players plus Cullen were too good." And, me and Kosi gush over Josh Cullen. He's a superb player. Irish international as well. Great player. Robert Wood says, "They are loudmouths, though, at Burnley." Gary Wilkins says, "Birmingham game is massive. If we don't see some direction and Karoma at least bench, we're in trouble." Matt, you're echoing. Matt, your microphone's bad. Blah, 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 blah. Richard Crowther then says, "Burnley fans had 5 years of losing most games that they were making up for on Friday night." And Leo says, "Kasumu is made of glass from an MK Don's pal of mine. Hopefully he's not out for 7 years if he breaks." And then Richard Crowther, this is a comment that I've mentioned a couple of times on here, is Scott High. Richard Crowther says, "Scott High started a lot of moves resulting in goals last season, but the pass before the assist so went unnoticed." And that is true. If you look at Coventry at home last year, Danny Ward's goal, Scott High starts the move in midfield. Bristol City away, I can't remember if it's the Danny Ward goal, starts with Scott High with a crossfield ball. So there are a lot of positives, Cozy, about Scott High. Right. It's Lion says, "Watch the game at a bar in Crete. Had a load of beer. Did we win?" It's bad news, mate, I'm afraid. So thanks for everybody online. And we're going to move on now to a different subject. So we'll talk about Dean Hoyle. Dean, is it fair to say he's been criticised for being quieter than usual? I think part of that is because the move to buy the club's not fully gone through yet. So I would imagine he's probably waiting on that to go through first. And these things do take time. There's a lot of lawyers get involved, don't they? And they get paid per hour, so I'm sure they do stretch things out a little bit on occasion. And also there's the fit and proper review, blah, 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 and loads of stuff going on. So a couple of things, and we'll jump in. I've just picked a couple of things out of the Dean Hoyle and Radio Leeds interview. It was good to see Dean back in front of the camera at one point, wasn't he? And mostly you can pick it up on BBC Sounds. Good job they did on Radio Leeds as well with it. Let us know online what you thought about the Dean Hoyle interview as well, and I'll read out some of the ones where we won't get sued, and the ones where we will, we'll probably ignore those. But yeah, so guys, it was good, wasn't it, to see, to hear from Dean. There's a couple of things which were interesting. I think one of them was he felt like it was a complete surprise with Carlos, and I think the tone of his voice about Carlos's departure, I sensed a little bit of, a lot of annoyance in how Carlos had maybe gone about it. I'd heard murmurings a few weeks earlier from when he'd left that he was a little bit unhappy about something, but Dean said, you've got to take Dean's comments at face value, haven't you? It's coming from, the source, if you like, who should know. So he said it was a complete surprise. He did mention that Danny Schofield, which we knew about because Lee Bromby's mentioned this, that Danny Schofield had a job offer in Belgium. I've tried to work out who that is, but every Belgian club, I think about 50% of Belgian clubs changed the manager in the summer, so I've not quite been able to work that out.
Right.
He was promised the job after Wembley if he stayed. It's like a succession thing. He would be next in line to the throne, if you like, if he turned down the club in Belgium. So that's obviously why Danny's got the job. He was promised that if Carlos ever left, and it happened sooner than he thought. The big thing that alarmed a lot of people really was that he's saying that Huddersfield Town are losing £10 million a season, which for Huddersfield Town is shit your pants, worrying, isn't it? Luckily, you've got a man there who can plug gaps and make sure we're okay. The 10 million seemed a little bit alarming to me because obviously the wage bills moved back to manageable levels. I think they were saying they need to get it back to around what it was when we got promoted, which was apparently 10, 11, 12 million, that sort of mark. If Huddersfield Town are still losing 10 million after that, then that's quite worrying. I think he mentioned a lot of it was going out Canal Side, because a lot of the things they do at Canal Side, they do differently now. Obviously, it's not public anymore, so we can't go in and walk around and have a look. But a lot of the things that go on there cost a lot more money, and what he was saying is they're trying to do things a lot differently, and that there's a lot more expense going out at Canal Side and maybe less on the wage bill, which then helps to create players. At the brand new name of the Miller's Oil High Performance Complex, which I think is an absolutely amazing name for a training ground.
So catchy, isn't it? So catchy.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, Adam, is what it does. Yeah. It's brilliant. But yeah, that was worrying. But then he mentioned that they're trying to reduce that to around 3 million. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, when the accounts come out, people will scour over it and do what they do and sort of point out, look at. Obviously, not everything is on the club accounts, is it? But they will sort of try and work out where that goes and why that is, and we'll wait for that. Far more intelligent people than us. Maybe someone who works for a bank could, and in finance, Johnny might be able to work that out for us when it comes out. Johnny's staying very quiet. But yes, that was mainly what came about really. And he did mention the wage budget is bottom 6 for the league anyway. I think one question I'd have at you guys first off is Huddersfield Town are losing a lot of money. He said there's things we could do. We could put the prices up, we could reduce the wage bill, or I can plug the gap, was pretty much the 3 options on the table. Would you guys be happy paying more for the season tickets? Obviously, Adam, you live in London, I think, so you're probably richer than us.
Yeah. Oh, bloody hell, I wish, mate. Jesus Christ. No, absolutely not. But all I can say is that, like, I think if I lived in Huddersfield, I might be tempted to say, yeah, I wouldn't mind, but I don't know how far it'd go. I mean, he's the chairman, and he's taking the responsibility to put money in the club. I know he's already put a lot in, but if he's throwing that out as an option, what do you think everyone's gonna pick if they had the choice? Well, you put your hand in your pocket even more. Like it's what people are gonna say. I'm not saying that's what I think. It is what I think. But if I lived in Huddersfield, I might think different. I might think an extra 50, 60, 70 quid. But it's the one thing. It's the one thing, without getting too doom and gloom, it's the one thing that hasn't gone up in terms of everything else, the cost of living and etc. And our lifeline, us Huddersfield fans who live down in London, shout out to the Southern Exiles and the Southern Terriers. We rely on the megabus, and that route isn't operating that much anymore. So it costs a bomb to get up there. So I wouldn't be able to afford to pay any more to come and see come and see home games. And it'd be a real shame to have for it to go up a significant amount. I think it could go up a little bit, but it depends. But like I say, if he's throwing that as an option, almost as like a flirting tactic, I could give an extra 10 million, then do it because it's your responsibility. And I know it's tough, but it's he's got the money to do it. If he doesn't have the money to do it, then he shouldn't be running the club, no matter how much we love him, no matter how much he's given to the club. He can't. It's football. I love the romance of football, but at the end of the day, sometimes I get a bit annoyed when I hear all this. Like, oh, we got to remember who we are. Got to remember where we come from. Like, we're never going to get anywhere then, because you're just going to be.
What happened to dreaming? What happened to dreaming?
Yeah, exactly. You're just going to be happy. You're just going to be happy going, oh well, it's just nice to turn up. It's like, no, it's not. We want to win. We want to compete because we can, and we got so close to the end of last season that I feel like it's a bit. To be honest, when they announced Danny Schofield as the new coach, I was a bit disappointed. I was thinking, oh God, this is going to be like Seaver again, where it's just like he's probably going for cheap, whatever. Completely, all conjecture on my part. But then when Tino came back on loan, I thought, right, that's quite promising, because he would have gone, I trust Danny. I want to work with Danny again, rather than the people who, someone like Asorba Thomas, maybe, who signed an extension when it was all rosy with Carlos, and now Carlos has gone. I was hoping that it wouldn't have a negative effect on the squad that Carlos has gone. I think it will do to a certain degree, but it shows a nice initiative that Tino came back under Danny as the head coach. So but sorry, I've gone off on one there. But with regards to Dean, I think it's hard because everyone's financial position is completely different, and I don't know. I like the fact that we've got nice cheap season tickets. Of course I do. But if we did have to move with the times a little bit and put them up a little bit, so be it. I don't want to see that. I don't want that to happen. I'd rather Dean put a bit more money into it, and if that means we pay him back in the future, if that's the deal that he's got, then I don't know. It's hard. Is it sustainable? That's I'm not. Thank God I'm not involved in that side of things in the world, because I wouldn't have a clue what to do. But yeah.
It is a tough one. It is a tough one, and I can agree with you. And I think we're quite fortunate to pay the price we do for season tickets, and I think we've covered it a lot on this podcast and talked very positively about it. And I think we actually did a bit of a comparison towards in the last season compared against other tickets in the league. So, I mean, as an owner who, let's be honest, has felt a bit heat over the last 12 months, I don't think he kind of had a chip in the shoulder. I think that would be too strong a word, but I think he was making the point just to kind of explain the fact that, if prices are cheap, and if it did go up to kind of the £500 mark, which there are tickets for Blackburn, do you know what I mean? Similar size club, similar ambitions, similar ability. There are £500. That puts an extra straight away. If we were to sell 6,000, but 16,000 with an asterisk, because obviously that's the differential there.
Yeah.
That does put an extra £4 million directly cash into the club, which is massive. You're looking at £10 million loss. We're looking to write that down to 3. We can chuck 4 million. It gives us a lot more money to spend. So that is a viable option to put money into the club. Whether we'd sell 16,000 at £500, probably not, which he does allude to. So it is hard, isn't it? You make a good point that he's the chairman. He's chosen to be the chairman, and with that comes a responsibility to fund the football club. Now, the word responsibility is how far you go with that. Is he responsible to put the club in a top 8 position financially? I don't know. I quite like what he's trying to do, in the sense that I'm not a Dean happy clapper, but I'm probably 60% pro Dean, to give my position before I kind of explain what my thoughts are. But I do understand what he's trying to say is, look, he isn't capable or isn't willing, and that's his own decision to put directly more money in. He's not comfortable with where we are. Our wage bill is bottom 6, fine. Do you know what I mean? Size of the club versus that position, probably a little bit on the lower side, but still okay. We are where we are with that. But what he's saying is, look, that's fine. We could put an extra £3 million in the wage bill, but will it actually increase the players on the pitch? Will we actually get any better? Or we can spend money in a different way. Again, as fans, we can't see it. It's not tangible. We don't really know. We might have 3 or 4 different coaches in the building that we wouldn't necessarily have. We might have different facilities that we are there we don't necessarily see or know. We might have the abilities to recover players quicker that we don't necessarily see. And he's basically saying this is a different way we can do it. We can never compete directly with the top 8 in this division financially, or certainly he's not willing to do that, which is absolutely fine. But we spend money a slightly different way and try to get more out of it. We spend £1, but we might get £3 worth of value out of it. Yeah. We can try and compete. Now, it's hard because from the fans' perspective, you go buy a £4 million player, everyone's happy. We've kind of seen that. It's not necessarily work, but that doesn't mean it's never going to work. That doesn't mean that model doesn't work. It generally does. You spend more on transfers, spend more wages, you generally do better. So I can see where he's coming from. I can also see why he said what he said around the season tickets. I mean, it's one of them where it's easy to criticise and ask for more money, but then if appreciate everyone's different boats here, and like say if you are having to travel up from London, you've already got far more costs than I do. I'm nipping across the M62, but if fans aren't willing to kind of spend an extra 150 quid, which alone will put 2 million back into the club, then is it really right to kind of demand money from somebody else? That's a rhetorical question. I'm not saying I agree with that, but I can see where he's coming from. I think the issue is there's a lot of bad blood around what happened with how Phil bought the club, and then they asking for their money back, how that looks. It's hard because financial accounts don't tell the full picture. It's how you interpret them and how they're presented. So again, we'll never really know. Huddersfield Town losing £10 million isn't sustainable. Selling players to try and cover that isn't sustainable either. Do you know what I mean? If we're saying, we've got Toffs, O'Brien and Grant money, we're fine. Okay, but if Rodoni doesn't come on to be anything fantastic, because Sumu kind of is injury prone, where's that money coming from after that? And that's the worry I've got, because what he's saying, that cost measure is where it is. The wage bill is where it needs to be, and those costs are down to, do you know what I mean? Plant and machinery saying accounts, they're fixtures and fittings. So if we then have to drop that down, then our kind of USP has gone with it as well. And just looking to sell players is not a sustainable model. So it is slightly worrying. I don't think it's kind of a major at this point. I guess it's see how we do for the next 3 or 4 years. We're secure for the next 3 or 4 years and see where at the end of it. But yeah, it's a tough one. I think it's very easy to sit as fans and say, we want someone to spend more money. But that can equally go wrong as well. So
for sure.
It's a real hard situation. I'm not kind of just happy to sit 16th for the next 10 years. Absolutely not. And if someone can come along with deep pockets and has got the integrity and will look after the football club, I'll be all for it. It's not Dean not Dean's the Lord and Saviour and that's it. And we don't really worship the ground he walks on. But I wouldn't be too quick to slate what we've got, and I won't be too quick to demand anybody to come in who's just got a bit more money.
What we've got is stability and a good heart, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, and it's still like, it's still coming off a pandemic, and there's some clubs that don't exist anymore. So I'm thankful. So I'm pro Dean as well. I might have gone off on the other side, but
I think
I am.
I think we are.
Yeah, I am for sure. Just sometimes the attitude of we know where we are, we know where we come from, and we're fine with that.
It does great though, doesn't it?
It really grates on me.
It takes you back to the Chris Powell days of we can't compete, and that
exactly that.
Don't you?
What's the point showing up? Yeah,
well, I think to the credit, they've kind of gone, okay, we can't pound for pound go with like what we saw what happened to Derby. We couldn't go with them pound for pound. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend this in a different way. And I kind of like that. And I do get where Johnny's coming from. There's a lot of players there in that B team who could potentially come through. But if you have a year or two where it takes a bit longer, then Dean has to fund that. And luckily, I think he will. But I think there's nothing more attractive to prospective buyers than a team that wins games and plays with a bit of a swagger. And I think that's maybe got to be taken into account as well. That team last year finished third, and all of a sudden they became very attractive to a lot of people. One particular Greek person watching, didn't it, who owns 2 football clubs, and players became very attractive, and that's what happens when you win games and you look good. If you're losing games and you're near the bottom of the league and you're getting played off the park, you can't sell players for a lot of money. It's a tough sell. So there's got to be a happy medium in there, and I think we've got somebody who actually cares about the football club. And we did a load of mini previews. There's a lot of pint-sized... This is a selling point for me. There's a load of pint-sized previews that we're pushing out at the minute on other clubs. And Wigan are coming up, and Wigan failed to pay a couple of wage bills, a couple of months in a row. But 3 months before that the guy's going on about Premier League football. We're going to spend our way up to the Premier League, and it's like, well, would you rather have someone like that, or would you rather have Dean Hoyle? I'd take Dean Hoyle 10 times out of 10. You know.
Yeah, I'd take Dean Hoyle over 99% of people who run football clubs. It's just at the moment.
You know where you are, don't you? Cos he's very quiet. Cos he doesn't always like the financial chat, do you? It's not up your street, is it, Cos? But you're happy with Dean, aren't you?
No, Dean, I always love it when people like Andy Accrington and Dean and stuff really just tell you how it is. I love it because there's so much, bluffing and certainly in the Premier League, and as the game seems to have gone, it just depresses you, doesn't it? Because this is just modern football. Can you imagine, like, if you work for a company that were just guaranteed to lose £10 million like a year, you're thinking, what are you doing working for this place?
It'd get wound up, wouldn't it? It'd get wound up. It wouldn't exist.
Yeah, it would, and you'd just be like, you're just thinking this is just like insane. But here we go. This is kind of football. I find it fascinating about the transfers, me, because I think I'm still proper naive. Like Carl Grant goes, what were it, 13 million or what have you? So there we've got 30 million. We don't, and I find it really interesting how he was kind of explaining that. Obviously, they were going to get, and it sounds the same with the Toff deal and Lewis, that this kind of, we're going to get 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and different payments and things. And at first, I'm thinking that's a bad thing, but this is probably a good thing, really, because it's almost like right out of that 10 million, it's like without
for tax reasons, Johnny, it's probably a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like not to bore people, but you don't get the full money for like Lewis, because Lewis won't be as an asset on the balance sheet. So anything we're getting for Lewis is taxable. Toff, I think, was $500,000. I don't know what they've attributed that to, but again, you don't necessarily get. Phil actually did a really good piece on that.
The billing thing, and a lot of people didn't like what he had to say.
It's worth listening to, because it's not really that well known, because it's boring. It's what I do, but it's boring. But again, I'd shout out that little bit of the Phil Hodgson podcast explains that really quite well. Not to repeat it.
I think what's scary as well is, like, obviously he's mentioned about the wage bill is, we're thinking we've got a low wage bill now, and he's talking about that we don't want to lower the wage bill. So it's kind of like, wow, it's, that kind of, but again, you just get mad with modern football, and that's how it is and stuff. And it'll never put the club into jeopardy. We're kind of lucky to be there. I just think it were interesting as well. The other thing that is going to be welcome, and I loved it when it happened before, is the Q&As are coming back in October. Well, we
keep throwing it out that he can do one on here, don't he? But we've not heard anything.
Yeah, it would be living them. What you get. Honestly, you'd have your head in your hand sometimes outside back in the day where, someone, I can't believe they've asked that question, and they'll just give you a straight answer.
Yeah,
and that'll be.
And it's good. It's good of him to do that. He doesn't owe us anything, does he? It's really good of him to do that. So I think it's really top that he does do that.
I think
it's chalk and cheese from Ken Day, because Ken didn't like having to, sort of be accountable. Well, not accountable, but didn't like having to explain himself, did he? Whereas Dean was just like, this is what happens. That's it.
Yeah.
So you always just come out of those canal side Q&A. Some were slightly more heated than others, but he was always doing a kind of good feeling, because he talks a good game. If he wasn't into cards, he could definitely run a PR company, Dean Hoyle.
Well, when we saw
always used to come out. One thing he used to come out, whether you agreed with it or not, he always used to come out proud that I think that he was the chairman of your football club, because you thought, well, how many of the people an hour and a half before kickoff are sat in canal side with a beer? Do you know what I mean? Some people watching football about not interested. You used to amaze people that used to listen and watch football at the back. Never got that. Chairman sat answering questions, but it did make you proud to be at the club that we're at.
For sure.
We were sold Children Roads. You remember that? Like 3 days later.
Where's the roads money, Cosy? That's what everyone still wants to know.
There were absolute shitstorm, mate. Do you remember it? But Dean fronted up on that as well. But I think the trouble is it paints a big picture of football, which we know already. But what's plan B? Where's someone else to come in? We've seen what's happened, like you say, what's happened at Derby. Hull have got a Turkish show that's going a mad way there now. There's 8 players coming in from Turkey. I agreed with what Dean put on the statement about the academy. You remember, again, God, I remember when we did a podcast just after they kind of disbanded, the academy, and but I can remember being asked about it, and that's all there was hell on about it, and that's proving to be a smart move. Like you said, Matt, we have to do things differently and you know what? We all got mad, Tough Law O'Brien goes, but we as the song goes, we know what we are, and it's just like it's just frustrating, but that we get that we had as one chance, as Eminem says, one shot, and we blew it, or John Moss blew it, or whatever, and this is the reality, really, and it's scary that a guy is willing to write off $5 million a season, and
you made me laugh with that,
it's good to hear him talk, man. And
gonna say the M&M thing.
What's that,
I think it's episode 97, isn't it? I think did I send you that last week, Johnny? Where
You did.
I did like a whole rap, didn't
Underrated.
I did a whole rap on the intro for Kosi, as M&M, which went down like a lead balloon, which is always fun. But there we go. Anyway, it's in episode 97. But yeah, so I think overall with Dean, I think we feel quite positive, don't we, that he's come out and talked about it. There are certain things I think when I've looked through I'm not a finance. Johnny's a finance guy. I'm not I worked for I worked for a stockbrokers at one point, but in the IT department, so I still have no idea about finance, just how to fix the systems when they go wrong. But there's a few things in there which would alarm people like me, like how the club took out a 31 million loan immediately before the parachute payments, and then that doesn't get spoken about, and we're still paying interest on it. To me, I'm like, what's going on with this 31 million quid? But you've got to put your faith in people like Dean and Phil, haven't you? And because whatever anybody says online, that their hearts are going to be in the right place. I know there is that trust, isn't there, where Dean said previously, or he's intimated previously, hasn't he, that he doesn't ever expect, I think he said it in a Q&A, that he doesn't ever expect his money back at that point, and then he does it, and that kind of breaks the trust with people who thought he wasn't going to do it. So I understand that side of it, and I understand as a tight Yorkshireman why you would, as me as a tight Yorkshireman, why you would, sort of bill us for, the money he's put in. So I'm kind of just like, yeah, I'm happy with what Dean's doing. What he says, he sounds good. He sounds more chilled out than before. He sounds more like he's ready to let other people run things. Like, it sounds like there's a lot of faith in Lee Bromby there, which is good because I think Lee's done some really good work.
Absolutely.
And the staff, he talked glowingly about the staff at Canalside and what they're doing. So it's really good that they've got that in a good place. Go on, Cos.
I'll tell you what we're really interested in as well, and I think we know this already, but he was saying like people like Radoni would not sign for Huddersfield Town if they didn't know they were a pathway to be sold on. So as much as we get fed up that, we look always the best players, it's almost like a deal that's kind of been done with the player coming. It's like, and they see it. Obviously,
I think everyone in the Championship's,
that
though, aren't they, to a certain extent? Every club in the Championship are a step.
Yeah, but I always think, why are you signing for Huddersfield Town? Because you're not going to get rich, and you're probably, not going to,
compared to us, mate, they're all right compared to us, aren't they? But, but yeah, I know.
We've not been an ass about it like we could have been. We could have been an ass about some of these sales in recent years, but we haven't been, and I think that counts for something. And that's
like
well.
Nottingham Forest,
Thomas is another.
Yeah, the child in me, the inner child with me would have seen Nottingham Forest coming with bids for O'Brien and Toffler, and I'd been like, get fucked. There's no chance. I'm selling to you a lot, but it was more than that. The club have made promises.
10 million, but people are saying 10 million because one journalist has said, but Dean's probably not going to disclose it. But I think it's a lot more. The fact that he's on about these other people, I think it'd be a lot more than that. And I think you'll see a different Dean once it's all gone through this. And I think he will get his mojo back. He said he's learned a lot, and obviously he will have done, not just from football, but from life, what he went through and that as well. And this will be a different Dean, but he gives me a lot of heart that he's on about Q&As, and he did come on radio because he didn't have to do that, did he? He brought out his statement that could have speak for itself. So yeah, it kind of felt not like peak 2010 because we were all a bit younger then, but it just felt good, didn't it? And
it's probably like he's less about buying us all pints like he used to do back then as well. But this is a thing, isn't it? If you've got a problem with you've got a problem with Dean Hoyle, go down to Canalside and ask him a question. Simple as that, isn't it? So
the other quick thing I'd say, just the final thing on, well, not necessarily the final thing, but one major thing is a few people are saying, "Oh, this watch his interest, sell the club." Dean Hoyle would be a lot better off financially if he'd not been sole charge of Huddersfield Town. That is absolutely black and white. So I think the idea that he's in there just to get his money out, or he's stripping the assets, this side of thing. I mean, I don't know necessarily anyone that believes that to be true, but he's not making money being the owner of Huddersfield Town. And if he says he's here for the medium term, not necessarily long term, medium term, he's still not going to make money out of being in charge of Huddersfield Town. So I think that's something we can absolutely agree is not necessarily the case. He's not here to strip or make a quick buck. And if he's worried about counting his pound coins, some people seem to think he is, he wouldn't be in charge of Huddersfield Town. It's not going to make him any money. It's going to cost him money. So, how much he puts in is up for debate, and everyone's rightly got their opinion on that. But he's certainly going to be negative financially. It's a negative impact looking after Huddersfield Town than it is going to profit from it. So, that's important to recognise.
I think definitely we can. I think that's a good way to end that one, Johnny. And I'll go to our. Let's have a quick scan of what they've put on YouTube first, because I do realise that if I read something out which could be liable, I will get in trouble. But thankfully, everybody that watches and listens to this podcast is very sensible, so we've got no issues. Leo says, 1 step forwards, 2 step backwards. We'll have to sell our prize assets every season if the club loses 10 million a year. Sorba and Nichols next. Well, I would imagine Sorba will go anyway if he has another good season like last year, because like Kosi says, it's a stepping stone, isn't it? Huddersfield Town's a stepping stone, and he's got a brilliant platform at Christmas at the World Cup, hasn't he? If he gets in the Wales team, does well, and carries on last year, I was slightly worried his corners were rubbish against Burnley. That was a little bit of a worry. But if he has a season like last year, he's going to go for between 10 and 15 million, isn't he? And he will have earned it, and everyone will say, do you know what? Well done, Sorba, off you go and play in the Premier League. So fair enough. I don't think anyone would begrudge that. Lee Nichols, I think at 30, I don't know if there's a big fee coming for Lee Nichols, because usually you buy someone 22, 23 with a resale in future, don't you? Whereas Lee Nichols,
he's worth more to us than anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If someone offered 1.5 million for Lee Nichols, that's not.
No.
Yeah.
I love him. I wouldn't sell him for. I wouldn't sell him for 5-6 million. I would keep him.
Someone christened him in these comment section the Nick Shithouse, and I thought that was absolutely brilliant because he is he is superb. Let's have a look. Richard Crowther says, Adam, you need to be careful what you wish for. Who else will put 5 million a year whilst he doesn't want to pay another 100 quid? I think you clarified that later on, so I think that's fine.
Yeah. I was only just saying, like, because he threw it out there as an option. I was like, do it. Go on, do it.
Yeah.
Because
Dag Barnett says, good man, Adam. You're right. We must try and be as good as we can be. Dean Hoyle is a changed man, and that's why people may feel disappointed. You can charge more, but would people buy it in the numbers? I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think one thing we didn't touch on really is commercials, and Huddersfield's a difficult sell, isn't it? We were talking off air, weren't we, about Huddersfield versus Burnley on Sky, and we were comparing that to, unfavourably to Premier League football fans, and would they have tuned in for that? And Burnley singing, anti-football, etc. And Huddersfield's a tough sell, and within the town, there's not a lot of money swirling around either, is there? And with Leeds United back in the Premier League, it's an even tougher sell in West Yorkshire because people want their product in front of eyes, don't they? And that's what Leeds United can offer, and we can't. So hopefully they go down, and we can get more. Because double, two wins there. So Richard Crowther says Dean can't put 5 million in a year forever, which is true. Doug Barnett says he would pay more, but many wouldn't. Sadly, we couldn't build on last season, and Friday night was a stark reminder of that. The problem is the post-season will see season tickets drop irrespective of the price. Yeah, that's another tough balancing act that the club have got to get in. It's Lion says, if we were in first position at Christmas, would Dean gamble and buy 2 top players to get us up automatically? I think he would. He's a shrewd operator. I think if you look back to January 2017, I wouldn't. Yeah, we got Izzy Brown, didn't we? That was a great loan at the time. So he went out and we got Izzy Brown and Colin Kwana, which I think people can say what they want about Colin Kwana, but he was our top assister in the Premier League. So there we go.
Yeah, and we'll always have Hillsborough.
Exactly. So Colin paid that back tenfold, didn't he? And then finally, Bez says, do you think the fan base will ever get fed up of having to sell our prize assets? I accept the situation, but it is depressing. Yeah, I think that's what you were saying, isn't it, Adam? It is what it is. But
yeah, it is what it is. I don't begrudge. Yeah, I don't begrudge anyone. I don't begrudge Toffolo. I don't begrudge O'Brien. That's what they want to do. They want to play in the Premier League. Of course they do. Anyone who's ever kicked at football wants to play at the highest level, don't they? It's just I think I'm still annoyed about the money we spent while we were in the Premier League. I think we all will be forever.
I think Dean is. I think
exactly. Yeah, just so it's just that case of that we had that bite of the cherry and it was and we missed. We dropped the cherry on the floor. We didn't enjoy it, and it's just
5 second rule turned into
absolutely But I think it's just a bit disappointing when there's that kind of acceptance of, oh well, that's just the way it is and that's the way it's always been. It's like, well, come on, like you got.
It is just a food chain of football, though, isn't it? Like, we say, Championship, mid-table.
Say it, Elton John, do it. Go full Elton John. Circle of life. Go on.
It is the circle of life. But even mid-table Premier League teams, if you've got someone who's better than your football club or the best of your football club, there's always a bigger fish. There's always a bigger fish. So we are where we are with that, but that's not unique to Huddersfield. That's not a business model that we did. I mean, Dean Hoyle's made
I think
up.
the best thing you can say about Dean, Johnny, is that we are now a bigger fish now than where we were when he started, and we're eating fish that we weren't before. I think the metaphor's getting lost a little bit, but we are no longer a guppy. We are a pike or something. I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, we're a nice cod.
Yeah, exactly, with some chips. Right. I think what fans of the offensive would like to know, Adam, is how would Chris Woodall, so again, Kosi and Johnny are probably looking a bit lost here, but how would Woody cope with Dean Hoyle, and what would his thoughts be perhaps on working with him? Obviously, it's a far... Listen to it, Johnny. You will absolutely love Patrick Nolan and the character on the show.
I hope some of your listeners get this. Otherwise, this is just
one of them definitely does. Really? One of them definitely does. Mark in the comments definitely does.
Right. Okay. I think Woody. Am I allowed to swear? Yep. It's 10 to 10 in it. I can't not swear if I'm doing a Woody impression. Well, Woody's now the CEO of Ashford City, the fictional Premier League team, but he was sporting director for his whole career. But there's a bit of a spoiler for this season. But I think he'd probably sort of say to Dean, God, I don't know, actually. It'd be like, I think Dean Hoyle would buy him a pint. I think Dean would be like, hello, Chris, here's a pint for you, mate. I'll need that money back in a week. And would he be like, where the fuck do you need that back? What do you need the fucking money back for? And then Dean would be like, well, I do expect it back at some point. He's like, I didn't even want a fucking paint. I didn't want a John Smith. I want a fucking Tenants or an Iron Brew or something like that. I think it'd probably be like that. There'd be that sort of arrangement of Dean just... I don't know. I feel like I've done a bit of Dean bashing here. I don't want to continue it through the Ashford City.
Jarrell Band from Takes That Chance for.
It's horrible. It's like I really like him. I really, really like him. It's just.
I think that came out.
I feel terrible, but I don't know how Woody would feel about it because he's got no connection to Huddersfield Town. He's got no connection to anything really. He's just a bit of a whirlwind, but. Yeah, hopefully, fans or listeners of the show would appreciate that that little crossover. But yeah,
well, I did mention earlier off air, didn't I, that my wife is Scottish too, and I did play the accent to her because I did hear something once where you said you get grief of some Scottish people with
so many,
accent. And obviously she's an Indonesian, so she's lived in Edinburgh for a long time, and I played it to her. And I went, because she's heard my Scottish accent, and I can't go Scottish without going full Billy Connolly. No one can do it without going full Billy Connolly, can they? So I said to her, how's this accent? And she went, actually, that's pretty good, that's decent.
Oh, good.
So there you go. So from an authentic Scottish person, it's better than mine. So you've got that one.
Bless you. I've had a few. I've had people think that I was actually Scottish. I've had people say it's the worst they've ever heard. And it's mostly the latter, but... Fuck them, if they want.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go. You've got the seal of approval from a Fleming.
Thank you. I really
Fleming of
that.
Scotland. So there you
That's
go.
That's really nice.
Right. So that I was gonna say, have we finished on the Dean Hoyle stuff? Kosi, have you got anything more to add on anything? I think La Liga's on. Nope. I think we're all good to go out with that. Has he got? Oh, he's on mute.
Not La Liga, England women, mate. Wow, brilliant.
Oh, you're watching that back?
Yeah.
Let's talk about England women.
Yeah, it was so nice to love football again for 120 minutes. And then I remembered that I was doing this. And I thought, for fuck's sake, I've got to talk about Town because I was on an absolute high. It was absolutely fantastic, and it's just been an absolute joy. And I think we're all overjoyed, aren't we? And it's just incredible, absolutely incredible.
My other half's a big England fan, and she wanted to get tickets for this, and she's been trying to get tickets throughout. She plays football during the weeks, or she used to play football before she did her ACL during the week and stuff. And she's sat upstairs. She cried from the moment they scored the second goal, and I was sat there going, they've got this. Germany are done. Don't worry about it. And she's sobbing, and she sat there with her fingers crossed like this. She's a huge fan, and she sits. And when I record this during the football season, she sits upstairs and puts the WSL on and stuff. So she's quite emotionally. Like I said, she's Scottish, but she's lived here for 10 years, and she's a massive England fan of England women, and she'd cheer for Scotland over England, but that's by the by. But she's sat up there with her fingers crossed, crying, and and it makes me think the impact it'll have not on on my missus, but on other people. And like my little boy sat there playing Nintendo Switch, he's playing Smash Brothers on Nintendo Switch, kicking the crap out of people with his headphones on. He don't care. But, you know, other boys and girls, you know, throughout the country have just seen an England team win a major tournament. And I know it's the women. I know a lot of people will say, well, it doesn't count. It does count. But I understand that the years of hurt thing is pretty much a guy thing, isn't it? The men's team went through the penalty shootouts, etc. So it is different. But it doesn't take away from what a wonderful sort of moment this is, that an England team's won something in our lifetimes, which we never thought we'd see. So I'm absolutely delighted, and I watched it and I just thought Leah Williamson is just a phenomenal footballer. You know, and there's quite a few of them are really good. You know, Hemp's really good out wide, and the midfielder Walsh, you know, she played. I thought she was really good. But yeah, Leah Williamson in how she steps out and brings the ball out, and it's reminiscent to a lot of Rolls-Royce centre-backs that don't always exist. Like Beckenbauer was the one, wasn't it, for Germany, and then Lothar Matthäus later on, you know, that centre-back who used to bring the ball out, and you know, maybe Terence Congolo at one point for Town, but you know, and a phenomenal, you know, it's a really sort of decent night. I know we've sat here talking about finances, haven't we, Johnny, and what have you, and Huddersfield Town being crap again, which is, you know, which everybody kind of enjoys secretly because that's what we are. But you know, it's a good night, isn't it? The football was, you know, women's football's, you know, I'll argue with anybody. Women's football's good, and when blokes always go, oh, it's rubbish, it's nothing compared to the men's. I always wonder if these people go watch their under-11s play and sort of go, oh, do you know what? Fuck this. Ronaldo would have scored that. I'm going to give it him off. You know what I mean? You wonder if it's silly to compare the two.
Yeah, if anyone's having a go at women's football after that, they can fuck off. Because the whole tournament, honestly, the whole tournament has been fantastic. You know what has been really refreshing, and I'm going to sound like an old man now, but there's been no pissing about on the floor and overreacting to challenges. Of course, you see it now and again in some games, but the little bits, but a fraction of what happens in the men's game, especially at the highest level, because that's embarrassing when you show people you know, people rolling around
the other day in a friendly.
It's awful. It really, really, really puts me off the sport. But so it was really refreshing to see that.
Well, I don't know, Adam. There's been a lot of diving.
There's a few little bits in that final, actually, isn't there?
A lot of English people also.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. There are bits, but there's not. I feel like
they're learning.
They haven't been overreacting as much and like grabbing their faces when they get hit in the knee or something. Like I can't be doing that Neymar crap and all that sort of rolling about. It's just really, I hate when people go, it's part of the game. I just think, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's been good for me, that the best thing for me is that they've been played in towns and cities that's never been. I talked to someone who lives in Leeds the other week and said it was incredible to see like like flooding a town and stuff. But again, people use that as a negative, saying, well, they should be playing bigger stadiums and that as well. But to me, I thought it was positive that they went in other towns.
I don't know if you heard what you make a great point there, because I don't know if you heard what Alex Scott said at the end, and I think it was quite poignant. I think she's actually got quite understandably quite emotional about it, because she obviously it's that important to her. But she said that there was a lot of the reason people say, well, why is it such a small ground? I'd love to go a ticket, but I couldn't get it because it was at Bramall Lane or Jonny and not bigger grounds. She said it was offered to bigger grounds, but they turned it down. And it was in 2018 it was offered, they turned it down because they were interested, commercial partners were interested. She said, look here, it's 87,500 people here.
Amazing.
And everyone's desperate. Everyone's desperate to get tickets to Bramall Lane. Yeah. People have missed the boat. Football clubs have missed the boat now. And commercial partners have missed the boat because I think they failed to recognise how big, home women Euros could be. And it's a shame that's been the case. But hopefully, this is a bit of a line in the sign moment. And women's football gets a bit of the profile it deserves. And not just the WSL, the FA Championship as well. It's a great standard of football. Rovers are my local team now as such, and they've got a women's football team and a great kind of girls academy as well, which is fantastic. And I've gone and watched plenty of their games with a friend. When we get a chance to go, and it's enjoyable. It's a good standard of football, and that's just one step down. So I'd encourage people to go.
I should jump in there and say, look, Town women are decent as well. Yeah. If you fancy, I think they play on a Sunday mostly at Stords Hall. Get down there, they're decent. They've got some good players. They've got, Katie Nutter, Kate Mallin still plays there, and Brady did an interview quite a while ago with Laura Elford, the striker. She's decent as well, and get down there. And I think it's
the other thing,
50
Matt,
quid a
well,
season card. Go.
It's a refreshing experience to go watch it as well.
The grounds have not been hijacked by footwicks and all. We haven't had people snorting lines of coke trying to smash into Wembley and stuff. And it's been refreshing the crowd. I mean, that anyone who could have been near to tears. That last was singing "Sweet Caroline." They had her on before the game, didn't she? Today
from Wakefield, from Wakefield.
That for me, that's what football brings you joy. Not people on trains singing about Jack Walker being dead and snorting coke on the train from Leeds to Huddersfield. This is proper support. Obviously, there's lasses like I've gone out from work tonight that they're getting drunk, they're going nuts, karaoke bars. It just charms me because I just know that if it had been men's, it had just been something daft that have happened, man. It's just been, the whole thing has been brilliant, man, from the coverage to the different commentators to the different thing. And I love the people that couldn't take it, though. Some of the men with it, absolutely dinosaur views. It's embarrassing. And it's like, and they've got quieter and quieter and quieter and that as well. And women's football, and football's for everyone, man. It's not just for men, not for women. It's for anyone, man. Anyone. And that, again, going back to town, if you watch the that new championship program and that as well, that the stuff they were doing with Danny Schofield before with the foundation, did you see that footage and that as well? That was sensational, man. It made me proud that we get involved with stuff like that. No one owns football, man. It's for everyone, and everyone should be proud tonight. But honestly, the dinosaur views, there's a generation that when everyone's kind of gone, them dinosaurs, mate, this will be par for the course. Women's football.
Oh yeah, for sure. They said that it was the biggest attendance in a European Championships game ever, wasn't it, tonight?
Do you know, Adam?
Men's or women's?
I did say, because I was lucky enough to get to the final last year, England versus Italy.
Right.
And I was also lucky that I was the opposite end of the stadium where all the trouble was. So I didn't know anything had gone until the end. And I did quip to Rachel, my other half, and she went, "Oh, it's the biggest one ever." And I went, "Not sure about that, Rachel. There were about 110,000 there last year when we went down to watch them against Italy." But honestly, it was, like Kosi says, it's just good to see them having fun. And what my favourite moment was the girl who scored the winner, Chloe Kelly, when she scored, and she was so excited when they were interviewing her afterwards that all of teammates were there singing and celebrating. That halfway through the interview, she just went, threw the microphone down and went to singing with them, didn't she, and join in.
Oh, brilliant!
So stuff like that were just
cool. Enjoy it.
Love it. Love it. Women's football on the up, and it is good to see. Right, so finally, let's have a look at the comments before we move to our last bit. And Mark Harrison is the one who listens to the offensive as well, Adam, and he says,
"Oh right, okay."
Has Woody had the same? I can't even see it.
Has
Woody had some banter from Jess since the playoff final? Because she is a Forest fan, isn't she? She's very good as well at the role she does.
She's very much a Forest fan. I was her guest in the director's box last season for our defeat in the FA Cup. That was the sort of start of the end, really. But there's been a lot of stuff on our WhatsApp chat. I'm not best pleased with her, especially after Toffs and O'Brien. But I'll plug our Patreon and say if he's not already a Patreon, to check out the latest behind the scenes episode where we discuss it in detail. There you go. Patreon.com/Ashwood City. Got to get it in. I've got to get it in. Yeah.
And we'll talk about them in a minute as well. So Richard Crowther says, we'll move on from that. They're on about Town Lager as well. Magic Rock. So it's all about Magic Rock. And then Richard Huckey's loved every minute of the tournament. I even cheered on Northern Ireland. I've got a mate who's from Belfast, so I always cheer Northern Ireland on as well. And it was good to see them get there. And I know they took a bit of a hammering, didn't they, from England at one point, but they did quite well up until the floodgates opened. So hopefully the emerging nations, if you like, and it's a little bit rugby league to say that. And there's a Rugby League World Cup at the end of this year as well, which should be fun as well for anybody that doesn't know. But, it's good to see the emerging nations like Northern Ireland get, showcased as well. And hopefully the likes of them and the others will continue and the game will get stronger. So, and next time, idiots like me will make sure they get tickets before it starts rather than trying to get it, before, as it goes on. But there we go. That's my fault. The last bit. So you mentioned the Patreon, Adam, about the offensive. So I'll be honest, I saw you plug this on Down at the Mac.
Right.
Years ago. And this is how I was aware of you, because I remember at the same time you mentioned you wanted to start a town podcast, and then you kind of got in on this, didn't you, instead? And so it was there. So it's always been on my mind. And I'll be honest, I didn't get round to it for ages because I work from home Don't leave the house. I didn't leave the house. And then I thought, right, shit, I've got fat here. I need to go to the gym and do things. And I thought, right, I'm going to search for something to listen to. And I was like, oh yeah, I was going to listen to this for ages. And I listened to it while I was in the gym at first. And, you know, you listen to sort of the transfer one at the start, isn't there? And other bits.
Yeah.
And then I think it really sort of ignited with me sort of, I think it was when the owner, for Johnny's interest listening, and the owners of this fictional football club's called Patrick Nolan, and it's brilliantly acted, isn't it? The voice acting, it's really funny.
Yeah, we're very lucky.
And he's really tight. It's, you know, he's an Etonian, but he's tight, so it's like a paradox, and it's sort of like a paradox thing. It's really funny. And the bit which made it, and I was like, oh lads, you've got to listen to this, was when he's in the stand. And there's a fan turns around and starts singing to him his name is Nolan, he is a wanker. And it's just that bit there. I just thought, this is brilliant, isn't it? And I was like, I sent it to my mate Josh, and I was like, Josh, listen to this. It's really funny. And 2 weeks later, I was like, have you listened to that yet? And he's like, yeah, I'm on episode 72. And it's like,
that's so nice. That's
like,
so lovely.
And he's like, mate, you need to listen to this song for Africa and stuff like this. And, you know, it's really fun. You know, I'm getting way ahead of stuff, but for like people like Johnny, who's interested, I can tell he's interested. But just tell us how it came about.
I followed them. I followed it. It's in my library.
I think he's. Are you wearing an Ashwood? I don't know if that's an Ashwood.
I am.
Shirt.
I am indeed. Available now at the club shop. Oh, I'm reversed. Yeah, there we go. This is the third kit. Yeah, it's the third kit. Yeah.
But just tell us about how it sort of came about and.
Yeah, happily. It basically, the offensive is the thick of it set in the boardroom of a fictional Premier League team, and we react to that week's goings-ons in the Premier League, if you will, and the football world. Joel Emery, who is my production partner, he writes the scripts. He used to work in football, and he's got his finger on the pulse, and he writes these amazing scripts weekly. We're now on the first episode of season 5 drops on Monday the 8th of August, and it's our 5th and final season, because in the show the ownership have a 5-year plan, and we wanted to see that through. It doesn't follow too much on the pitch. It follows the sporting director, the head of communications, and the chief executive, Patrick Nolan, who is a very lovable idiot of a leading role. I play the character of sporting director called Chris Woodall, who's a very fiery, sweary Scotsman who's a bit of a student of the game. And Hannah Doughty plays Jess Tate, who's head of communications, who has to sort of mop up all the shit afterwards, sometimes quite literally. And we sort of we wanted to create something that didn't just single out specific fan bases. We were like, if we offend everyone equally, then no one's going to get too angry, because it'd be easy to just, you know, slag off Everton, slag off Arsenal, or whoever's, you know, doing crap at the moment. But yeah, we started in 2018, and we've been through a lot since then. I've been through a lot personally since then, and the show has really blossomed. It's our listenership went through the roof when we signed on to Stack, who produced the Football Ramble, and so we're on their network. And yeah, a 5th and final season coming up. I've heard it's bingeable. I don't know, because obviously I don't listen to it because I edit it. I direct, I act in it, and I edit it. So I'm not going to be caught dead binging it myself, because I've listened to each episode about 20 times by default. But and we've had a second show called Jackie the Ripper, which has done quite well, and a recent show, it's good. Recent show that we released a month or so ago now, called Boom, which is a drama about the fall of Enron in the States, and that's doing quite well. We've won like awards for our shows. We're always quite high up in the Apple podcast charts, and both Joel and I we're not very good at talking about our show. We'd quite like someone else to do it for us, because it always feels a bit, but it's our job now, and we have to push it. You have to push it through word of mouth. And Matt, I genuinely really appreciate you telling people to because I think I think it takes a few episodes to get into it. It's kind of the anti-Archers. We didn't want everything. Yeah, we didn't want everything to be very pronounced and very softly spoken. We wanted everything. We wanted it to feel like it's a fly on the wall. It's a mockumentary, so it's all scripted. It's not a studio chat show. It's a drama. It's a comedy. It's an out and out comedy. And you know, some people really take to it. Some people it's not their thing. But you know, we're on to episode 153, I think now. So it's plus a lot of specials that we have behind closed doors on the Patreon. And this season, we actually have additional episodes that are set within the Champions League. So we've got a bit of a European flavour to this season, as well as it being the final one for us as well.
Do you voice the Dutch manager as well? Is that you?
I don't know. It's a Dutch actor called Alan who knows nothing about football. He's incredible and he's so good, but he knows nothing about football. Yeah, he's so good. And he's sort of a Louis van Gaal, but with the volume turned up, really. So yeah. And we've had cameos from Chris Kamara. Peter Drury did a 12-minute recording for us once, which was just amazing. Peter Drury, who else? John Champion. Sven-Goran Eriksson was the coach for a while, and he lent his voice. We actually had people thought it was me doing a Sven impression. I was like, no, that's actually Sven. Like, we had to get a video of him to prove it was him. And yeah, so it's sort of all the ups and downs. You can kind of live vicariously through this club, and you can a bit of nostalgia as well. You can go back and hear when Huddersfield were in the Prem, and of course they beat Ashwood. I wouldn't record unless Town got a win over Ashwood City, but yeah. So. Yeah,
it is quite funny. There's quite a few early references, isn't there? And then obviously Huddersfield get relegated, and Ashwood City are a Premier League club out there, so it fades away. But there are a few little funny things in there. There's another thing I think made me laugh was a reference to somebody liking dogs on a Leeds United internet forum, which was quite funny, and you could see silly little things like that. And I think it was Kieran Broom, wasn't it, with the dog and the new coach, wasn't it? And he's like, "You like dogs?" And it's like, on his front seat of his car, you know. I know there's a lot of people haven't listened. They'll be like, "What's he on about?" And
I think we get a broad spectrum of comedy. I think there's stuff in there for people who find the topic of dog shagging funny, and mostly it's quite a clever. It's quite a clever satirical look at football, really. There's usually a deeper meaning to most things that are going on.
And there's some finance stuff in there. There's some very underhanded financial stuff as well, Johnny, that, you know, as a finance guy, that you will obviously like as well, because the guy who ends up owning the club is very interesting, shall we say. So it's a recommendation from me. I've listened to all three. I've listened to Jackie the Ripper, which I actually stopped listening to The Offensive to listen to that all the way through, because it's just two seasons. And I liked that. It was interesting. It was different, you know, to what I've done before, and it was quite interesting. And I knew who it was at the start, and then but it still kept going. And Boom's very different, isn't it, to what you've done? Yeah. It's a lot more. I don't want to say polished, because it's not, but it's produced differently, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We wanted to make sure that it had a different sound to it. I spent a long time editing that. It took me 8 months to make those 6 episodes. And it's very, very. We wanted it to have a sort of a premium feel, because The Offensive is sort of fly on the wall mockumentary. If you know, there's a lot of times where Joel and I'll be recording dialogue in the car, or, you know, just like, shit, I've got to find a quiet corner and just record a bit down. But Boom was all very much we recorded in the studio. We had I was directing sort of award-winning actors, and my friend Amari Douglas, who was in It's a Sin, Sharon D. Clark, who's an Olivier winner, and Aki Katabi, who's been in Mad Men. So it was like I was working with these, you know, a phenomenal cast. And I will say that the shows that we work on, we're so blessed to have such phenomenal cast members involved as well. So it's an absolute joy, and I'm very fortunate that it's you know, it's how I earn my living now, and Joel and I are sort of giving it a good go, you know, and just seeing how we get on. But I think a lot of it revolves around word of mouth. So I really appreciate that, mate. Even in this day and age of social media, all it takes is someone to go, "Oh, you should check it out." And I feel like you should give it a few episodes and then see if it's your thing. And if you like it, you're in for a good ride, because there's a lot of laughs to be had for sure.
Well, Mark online here saying The Offensive is brilliant, well worth a binge listen, and I binged it quite quickly through because I was going to the gym every day. I know I don't like it, but I did genuinely go to the gym every day, and the episodes are like 20 minutes, aren't they? Ish. 20 to 30, so they're quite short. So you can kind of get 3 or 4 in when you go somewhere, and it's funny. It's genuinely really funny. So it's I recommend it to everyone. But I also say you've got to give it the first 10 episodes, because I think without being rude or anything, I think that's probably when you lose most, because I think around about 10, 11 it hooks you in more, because you get to know the characters, you get to sort of get to know
100%. Yeah, I think when we listen back,
I think you focus more on the main three, don't you, as it goes on?
Yeah.
And at first, there's quite a lot, isn't there, going on at first? But,
yeah, we were learning on the job a bit, and the first sort of 3 or 4 episodes, when we listen back to it, we cringe and we're like, oh shit, should we take them down? But no, we can't, because it introduces the characters. But it's one of those things, isn't it? Yeah. But thank you, mate. I appreciate you letting me plug the shows and that, and really appreciate that.
No, it's good. It's good fun, and hopefully we'll have you on again someday. And we'll be more. We'll probably practice those little impressions, maybe. I'll probably give you more than 20 minutes notice next time.
you need Joel to write it. I'm just a vessel. He's the brains of the operation. Yeah, I don't know what I am, but he's the brains for sure. Yeah,
the voice. Yeah, but no, that's great. So thanks to everybody who's tuned in online. You can find where can you find the Offensive?
The Offensive, we've got 2 Twitter handles. We've got the at the Offensive Pod, which is our podcast Twitter, which is very much just like new episode out. We've got at Ashwood City, which is the actual club Twitter account. So we run the Twitter like a Premier League football club, with awkward goal gifts, faux pas, lots of silly bits and bobs on there. So, and all the links are on there as well. AshwoodCity.com for the club shop. We run the club shop. We have first, away, and third kits, beanies, mugs, the whole lot. And and the Patreon as well for any fans of the show who want some behind the scenes content and access to loads more episodes as well. So that's patreon.com/Ashwood City. Cheers, Matt.
Yeah, no worries. And that's it for us. So, hopefully, we've got Birmingham on the horizon this coming week, and hopefully there's more. And again, remember, that's a Friday night, because Birmingham City didn't know that the Commonwealth Games was being hosted in Birmingham until last week. So, so there you go. There's an Ashwood City plotline for you, isn't it? But,
absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So, so just bear in mind, don't get caught short by that. I don't think it's on Sky either. So, I'm sure you'll find a way to listen to that via Radio Leeds or other methods, because he usually flies to Spain, don't you, and watches it over in Spain, and I follow and jets back for the day.
Nice.
It doesn't really, but he has his methods. He's not listening. It's fine. But that's it. I'm gonna bring in. So thanks, guys. I'm gonna roll in the final credits.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.